r/AskReddit. What conspiracy theories actually make sense and could be true? Disclaimer. This is all theories we found on the internet and just compiled them into one video. Check out the description box for all the articles mentioned in the video. The 10-year challenge on Facebook in 2018, which encouraged Facebook users to upload pictures from 2008 and a current one from 2018, was actually a front by programmers to gain data and examples to train facial recognition and age progression software. I know I'm going to get hella down thumbs for this, but all the masking over the last 2 years has drastically increased their ability to detect who you are with your face covered. All the Olympic athletes' faces were fully covered when they went through check-in using self-check-in cameras, and it knew exactly who each person was. Over the years, I've become more and more convinced that the 1962 Alcatraz escapees survived. I think it was very plausible. I've swum from Alcatraz Island across the bay dozens of times in open water events in many different weather and current conditions. I've swum the entire distance around the island, and the distance under the span of the Golden Gate. The water in June, when they escaped, is not that cold, and the currents are actually helpful if used to one's advantage. Alcatraz is not as far out as it appears from shore either. I can do it in 35 minutes, and I'm not any kind of champion swimmer, just someone who likes to swim open water. I do recognize these guys were not swimmers at all. But they had a raft, and with steady progress and a go with the current mentality, they could have easily made the shore. That there actually might not be any gold in Fort Knox. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up about it, and I've been there in my time in the Army, and it was boring as hell with a pretty relaxed security as compared to other installations I've been on. When this conspiracy was hitting its peak in 2017, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin took a $27,000 military aircraft trip there. There are pictures of him in a weird chalkboard-lined room with several stacks of what appear to be gold bars behind him. But oddly enough, these pictures are in a grainy black and white, so you can't actually confirm what he's holding. Before this trip, the last known outside audit of Fort Knox was in 1953. My favorite one is that the Kardashian sisters keep their brother chubby so they can use his fat for their injections. There is a brother? I see someone has not been keeping up. I'd like to know why I love this so much. Just the thought that Rob grew up thinking he was the spoiled one who got to eat whatever he wanted, while his sisters all went hungry. Turns out they were just fattening him up for the harvest. A lighter one, but in football, soccer, players get a yellow card when they take their shirt off when celebrating a goal. This is a directive from sponsors because the cameras focus on the goal scorer when they are celebrating, and if they don't have their shirt on, the sponsors' logos aren't able to be seen by viewers. They want that image of the celebrating player on the TV, on the news reports, printed in the paper, so that the sponsors on the shirt get seen by everyone. So the sponsors issue a directive that they want the players to be made to keep their shirt on, resulting in a booking. I'll give you one that definitely is real. The US government, with the assistance of several other countries around the world, secretly stole body parts from infants, from university samples, stillbirths, and some on the record allusions to bodies pulled from indigent burials, so they could test the bones for radiation to determine the effects of nuclear bomb detonation, to determine the impact and if there was any safe amount of nuclear explosion. It's called Project Sunshine. I don't think he's been convicted, so I suppose this counts as a conspiracy even though the evidence is overwhelming. Dan Schneider is a pedo who preyed on various Nickelodeon child actors/actresses and groomed and preyed on Amanda Bynes. On a similar note, Drake Bell was the poor child actor who was brutally assaulted by Brian Peck. See conviction info about a victim named as John Doe by the courts here, who was another Nickelodeon worker collaborating with Dan Schneider on his shows as a dialogue coach. If you ever go back and watch a lot of the older Nickelodeon shows, especially those like Sam and Cat and iCarly, you notice they show their feet a lot and make lots of jokes related to feet. Even on Twitter or Tumblr or something, Nickelodeon posted telling kids to write something like #SamanCat or whatever on their feet and take a picture. Super creepy. A lot of the more stupid conspiracy theories were made up, in order to make conspiracy theories in general be expected to not have any logic. This way, a true one might be ignored. The FBI assassinated Martin Luther King. They have been sued and Freedom of Information requests have been filed by his family. The FBI has responded that any records pertaining to MLK's death they have would be a threat to national security if released. The FBI has already been forced to release documents pertaining to an attempt on MLK's life and attempts to plant evidence that could be used to send him to jail, as well as extensive blackmail attempts. They tried to kill him before. It makes sense that if they did they would fight tooth and nail to keep it secret. A huge part of, if not the primary function of, the sales that take place in the fine art scene occur as a way for various entities to launder dirty money. The Vatican is hiding stuff. Old scrolls, forgotten books, all sorts of stuff. I really don't think this is a conspiracy theory. If you want to have a look at a book/scroll/whatever from the Vatican archive, you need to request that book. Kicker is they don't publish a list of their inventory. So you need to know what is in there. They won't even tell if a book is there or not, or they don't want you to see it. To be fair, some libraries work something like that. I study archaeology and had some classes on Christian art history, archaeology. Also, there is like a ton of conflicting religious texts out there. It was only when the Eastern, Roman emperors, Constantine, Justinian or Valentinian especially, had their councils that the whole Christian thing was streamlined. There were different Christian communities all around the Mediterranean at first, and they often incorporated local legends and content from other religions. Later on, when, 300 to 400, Christianity got a little more prominent, they even had disagreements to the point where Constantine and later emperors had to step in. Just have a look at the apocryph writings known today, so you can kind of extrapolate what was around back in the day. Snoop Dogg works for the federal government as an informer. This was started by Suge Knight, but still. Snoop has had some offenses that would lock most people up for a long time, but he has always got off. He's had multiple drug and gun charges on top of attempted murder. Dude is everywhere and has been for multiple decades now. Yeah. We even let him into Canada. There was a time we wouldn't even allow Martha Stewart in for a pumpkin boat race. That NASA has cockpit recordings of the last moments of Challenger and Columbia, but won't release them out of respect for the families. My favorite JFK theory, the hat-making industry of Danbury, Connecticut was behind it. He wasn't the first president to not wear a hat, but as we all know, he and his wife were very much in the public eye and fashionable. People saw him not wearing a hat and the trend took off and hurt the hat industry, which was a big industry in Danbury. The Great Cheese Conspiracy. Blocks of cheese are packaged in a type of plastic that is designed to tear like paper. This assures that once you open the package, your cheese will dry out or get moldy quickly and you'll need to buy more. North Korea hasn't been properly Kim-controlled since Kim Il-sung, who died in 1994. Since then it's been a military junta and the Kims are kept on somewhat of a leash, for continuity and to give the plebs something to rally around and focus on. Fear keeps them in line and it's all theater that gives them a sense of purpose so they don't ask too many questions. Kim Jong-il even said to a foreign visitor that it was all fake and his people hated him. The elites are effectively held to ransom in a life of obscene luxury and there is a lot of paranoia, jockeying and rival factions. High-ranking defectors and various diplomats have actually hinted at this. It's also well known that the top military ranks know their situation is a joke and that they would get squashed by anyone they went to war with. It's just yet another way of rallying the population around a cause and keeping them on their toes. South Korea and the CIA have also said they cannot be 100% sure exactly what's going on and how the system really works. There have also been leaks that suggest the well-informed North Korean diplomatic class are privately not happy with one Kim after another and feel that something has to give. For what it's worth, I don't see North Korea surviving in its current form for another 25 years. The situation there now appears to be truly desperate and the worst that's been seen in years. Death of Michael Jackson may not be what it seems. His father kept him on drugs that had him chemically castrated from before he hit puberty, to keep his voice as high as it was. His lack of a childhood made him obsessed with his idealized concept of boyhood, which he tried to get as close to as possible, living through other little boys. None of his kids are biologically his. Hitler escaping to Argentina. Zhukov never believed the corpse he got belonged to Hitler and recent DNA says it was from a woman. Also, Perón didn't give a damn about Nazis on his backyard. Also, Adolf, by changing his hair and growing a beard, could easily blend in as any regular German Hans immigrant there. There's been at least one great reset, essentially resetting to Stone Age, or there was a dominate species before us. Think of things like the London Hammer and other out-of-place artifacts. Unexplained finds that are far more advanced for their discovery or something that appears out of time. One part of this conspiracy theory is the Earth has a built-in reset standard which appears as global warming or cooling and not only rocks advancements so hard we're reset but introduces new species or rapidly evolved species to replace extinct ones to keep balance. If there was a dominant species that wiped themselves out before us, the global reset chose humanity to advance, thus why there's a missing link in the evolutionary theory. I don't know if I believe this one, but it would explain a few things, and at least be more interesting than global warming will reduce the planet to barren deserts with toxic oceans. Edit. The reset standard is believed to be triggered by reaching a certain stage of advancement from the dominant species, kinda like the Great Filter but on a smaller level, or by how much damage has happened to the Earth. Of the conspiracies that have not been proven true, there are several that may be. But there's one that has always struck me as potentially true and not worth worrying about, that we may live in a simulation. Even if we did, it changes nothing. Either we do or we don't. That's pretty much it. Edwin Stanton, Lincoln's Secretary of War, was behind the assassination. Succession back then wasn't clear-cut like it is now. There was no designated survivor, Speaker of the House taking over, etc. If the president died, VP took over. If the VP died, then the office was pretty much up for grabs. And Stanton wanted to be president. We know that John Wilkes Booth didn't act alone and had an accomplice who tried to assassinate the vice president but backed out at the last second. If he had gone through with his role in the plan, Stanton would have been the perfect person, in the perfect place, at the perfect time to step into the Oval Office, given his experience and qualifications. Antarctica has something fishy going on. Why would the US and the USSR stop the Cold War for a day to make a treaty about a cold, faraway iceberg? Why is getting there so difficult? You would think extreme adventurers would love one of the most hostile places on Earth. The Trojan Wars were possibly real. In the past century, we've learned about a series on wars in the Eastern Mediterranean about 1200 BC. When well-meaning and well-adjusted journalists, who have no prior history of mental health issues, randomly kill themselves by shooting themselves in the back of the head, after publishing an article showing evidence of the CIA's wrongdoings. So there is a theory that says that reason everyone is scared of uncanny/not quite human looking things, is because there was once a predator that looked like humans but wasn't, and was trying to hunt us. Recently there was a conspiracy about the Queen of England. Some say she passed in December, but if that was the case she would have been on the throne for 69 years, you know, the sexual number. So they said she is in bad shape and won't be available to the public. Now they release that she has corona, and these people expect her death to be announced any day now, since she made it to 70 years. This isn't mine, but the theory goes that almost every top Nazi survived and escaped to a base in Antarctica. Here it goes. They all had body doubles. Hitler's was executed in the bunker and he was quickly rushed out by extremely devoted SS officers. He fled Germany to Spain where he stayed for a few months. He then fled with Eva Braun to Antarctica. Himmler's treason was staged. They just needed to find a reason to get him out of Berlin without letting the Allies know. His body double is arrested, not him. The double waits to confess his identity to give the real Himmler time to escape. By then Himmler has fled Germany and the double kills himself. Goebbels, though in the bunker, did not go with Hitler. He and his family fled to Argentina and waited around a year before going to Antarctica. I don't know why in this theory he didn't just go to Spain, but whatever. Like Himmler, Göring's treason was staged. However, he was meant to be arrested. Himmler tried to convince Hitler to let Göring be executed. However, Hitler decided against it, and on October 15, 1946, Nazi sympathizers break Göring out and replace him with a double who kills himself in the night. In this theory, a secret city exists underground in Antarctica. It is thousands of Germans and Africans are used as slave labor. The Nazis have also infiltrated the Western and Russian governments. They are pulling the strings of the world and will soon return. They also have technology which is incredibly advanced. Hitler is still alive through to aging technology. They will send agents out to create this technology, and these men will have enough influence to allow a Nazi takeover. This is an actual theory my friend has, and he honestly believes it. I've literally thought about making a book. He goes way more in depth. And this is literally the only wild theory he has. He's completely normal otherwise. Hope you enjoyed this. Celine Dion is a lesbian. Married Renee so that they could cover it. It was frowned upon back then. They both had affairs with women. They were best friends, not lovers. They had all their kids through insemination. She bleeps on everyone's gaydar. When you look at her life through that lens, it all makes sense. The Bible is missing books. It makes more sense for it to be 70 books than 66. Courtney Love murdered Kurt Cobain. I'll die on this bill. Hidden/forbidden archaeology. Very possible that some archaeological finds get suppressed because they don't fit the established truth and timeline. I know this for a fact. I was on an archaeological dig in Israel and we found large quantities of shellfish in a 9th century BC stratum. This would prove that either the residents were not Jewish or 9th century Jews did not keep kosher. None of this made it into the official report of the dig. This is a huge problem in biblical archaeology. Nail salons are a front for human trafficking and money laundering. Employee turnover is untrackable due to racism, mostly cash business, no skill or training required. Employees cannot ask for help due to language barrier. This is an actual thing, and it's scary. I was just in cosmetology school and almost every time they talked about working at a nail salon they mentioned human trafficking and prostitution. There was even a paper inside the bathroom stalls that said, "Are you being forced to work very long hours 6 or 7 days a week? Does someone else have control over your money and documents? Has your boss threatened you or your family? Call this human trafficking hotline." It was also written in Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean. It's my understanding that they usually target immigrants and people who may have nowhere else to go and then force them into prostitution after hours. It can happen with massage parlors as well. Little girls can even be taken to hair salons by their captors to get a different look so they're harder to recognize. I'm not saying this happens in every salon, it just happens sometimes. Thank you for watching. This is the end of part 1. Please like and subscribe and tell us which one of these you can see as being true, and if you have any, share your own conspiracy theories in the comments below.